"You're fired for insubordination." Harrison Ford's voice echoed through the glass-walled conference room like a thunderclap. Every head in the open office turned toward us. 23 pairs of eyes watched as my boss's face turned crimson with rage. Security was already walking toward the door before he even finished his sentence. "But here's the thing nobody expected," I smiled. Not a nervous smile or a defeated grin. A genuine, knowing smile that made Harrison's eyes narrow with confusion. As the security guards flanked me, I stood up slowly, straightened my tie, and said the two words that would haunt him forever: "Thank you." The entire office fell silent. Even the security guards hesitated. Harrison's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. He couldn't understand why the man he'd just destroyed was thanking him. If only he knew what I had planned for the rest of that day. "My name is Alex Thompson, and I'm 34 years old. What you're about to hear is the story of how I turned the worst day of my career into the sweetest revenge imaginable. Let me take you back to where this all began, 5 years ago. I was 29, fresh from MIT with a computer science degree and dreams bigger than the skyscrapers downtown. TechFlow Solutions was a mid-sized software company struggling to keep up with the competition. When I walked through their doors for my interview, I had no idea I was about to build something that would save their entire business. The company was bleeding money. Their main software platform was outdated, clunky, and clients were jumping ship faster than rats on a sinking vessel. During my interview, I laid out a complete overhaul plan that would revolutionize their entire system. The previous CEO, an older gentleman named William Hayes, hired me on the spot. For 6 months, I worked 18-hour days, surviving on coffee and determination. I rebuilt their core software from the ground up, implementing artificial intelligence features that were years ahead of the competition. The system I created didn't just fix their problems, it transformed them into industry leaders overnight. Within a year, revenue jumped from $2 million to $15 million annually. Clients were begging to get on our platform. I had single-handedly saved TechFlow Solutions from bankruptcy and turned it into a goldmine. That's when Harrison Ford entered the picture. He wasn't some external hire or industry veteran. No, Harrison was William Hayes' nephew, a 38-year-old business school graduate who'd spent more time networking at country clubs than actually working. When William decided to retire, he handed the CEO position to Harrison on a silver platter. From day one, Harrison saw me as a threat. While I had the technical skills and the respect of the entire development team, he had the family connections and the title. But titles don't create revolutionary software, and Harrison knew it. He also knew that every client meeting, every investor call, every success story somehow traced back to the system I'd built. The first red flag came during our initial one-on-one meeting. Harrison leaned back in his leather chair and said, "Alex, I want you to understand something. I'm the CEO now, and things are going to change around here. Your little computer program might have helped us in the past, but going forward, I'll be making all the strategic decisions." Little computer program. That little computer program was generating millions in revenue, but to Harrison, it was just something that made him look good in board meetings. I should have seen the writing on the wall right then. The first real clash happened 6 months after Harrison took over. We were in a crucial client meeting with Pinnacle Industries, our biggest potential contract worth $3 million. Their CTO was asking detailed technical questions about our AI capabilities, and Harrison was stumbling through answers he clearly didn't understand. I watched him fumble for 5 agonizing minutes before I couldn't take it anymore. When the client asked about our machine learning algorithms, I leaned forward and provided a clear, comprehensive explanation that not only answered their question but demonstrated features they hadn't even known existed. The client's eyes lit up. They signed the contract that afternoon, but Harrison's face told a different story. After the meeting, he cornered me in the hallway, his voice low and dangerous. "Don't you ever undermine me like that again," he hissed. "I don't care how smart you think you are. I'm the CEO, and you're just an employee. Know your place." But here's what Harrison didn't understand: I wasn't trying to undermine him. I was trying to save a deal that would have slipped through our fingers because of his incompetence. The client needed answers, and I provided them. Any real leader would have thanked me. Instead, he declared war. The whisper campaign started immediately. Suddenly, I was difficult to work with, and not a team player. Harrison spread rumors that I was too technical for client-facing roles and lacked leadership qualities. Promotions that should have been automatic began passing me by. Projects I'd initiated were reassigned to other managers. But the cruelest cut was watching Harrison take credit for my innovations in every board meeting, every press interview, every industry conference. He'd stand up there in his expensive suits, talking about his vision and his strategic leadership, while the system I'd built with my own hands generated millions in revenue. I could have quit. Maybe I should have quit. But something inside me refused to let him win. Instead, I worked harder. I stayed later, improved the system, added new features, and made sure every client interaction exceeded expectations. I documented everything, backed up every line of code, and quietly began building something Harrison didn't even realize existed: leverage. The other employees started to notice the treatment I was receiving. They saw Harrison's jealousy, his desperate attempts to diminish my contributions, and his growing paranoia about my influence within the company. Respect for Harrison plummeted while support for me quietly grew. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. While Harrison was busy playing politics and taking credit for my work, I started filing patents. Not in the company's name, in mine. Every innovative feature, every breakthrough algorithm, every piece of revolutionary code I'd developed became intellectual property that belonged to Alex Thompson, not TechFlow Solutions. The patent applications were complex, buried in technical jargon that would take a team of lawyers weeks to fully understand. I filed them quietly, one by one, over the course of 18 months. Each filing was perfectly legal. I'd reviewed my employment contract carefully. The company only owned rights to work done during company hours using company resources. But here's the beautiful part: I'd developed the core innovations at home, on my personal computer, during weekends and evenings when I couldn't sleep because my mind was racing with new ideas. Technically, legally, brilliantly, they were mine. Harrison never noticed. He was too busy enjoying his corner office and company car to pay attention to patent filings. The legal team processed the paperwork without question, assuming everything was being filed under the company name as usual. By the time I was done, I held the patents to every piece of technology that made TechFlow Solutions valuable. Harrison's jealousy reached new heights when he brought in his golden boy, Trevor Blake, his 26-year-old nephew fresh out of business school. Trevor had never written a line of code in his life, but suddenly he was Director of Technical Innovation, earning twice my salary and reporting directly to Harrison. The nepotism was so blatant it was almost comical. Trevor would sit in meetings nodding seriously while having no idea what anyone was talking about. He'd ask questions that revealed his complete lack of understanding, then try to cover his ignorance with business school buzzwords. But Harrison didn't care about competence. He cared about control. Trevor was family, which meant Trevor was loyal. Trevor would never challenge Harrison's authority or threaten his position. Trevor was everything I wasn't: malleable, grateful, and completely dependent on Harrison's favor. My projects were systematically transferred to Trevor's oversight. Code I'd written was suddenly being managed by someone who couldn't tell Python from Java. Client relationships I'd built over years were handed over to a kid who'd never sold software in his life. The frustration was eating me alive, but I kept my mouth shut and played the long game. Every insult, every slight, every moment of humiliation was fuel for what was coming. The breaking point came during a video call with Global Tech Industries, our second largest client. They'd been experiencing intermittent issues with their data processing, and Trevor was supposed to lead the technical discussion. I sat in the background, officially there as technical support. Trevor confidently launched into a presentation about optimizing synergistic solutions through innovative paradigm shifts. The client's IT director looked confused. Their CTO started asking specific questions about database architecture and server load balancing. Trevor's face went blank. For 10 excruciating minutes, I watched a $2 million relationship crumble as Trevor stammered through non-answers and technical nonsense. Finally, the client's CTO said, "Perhaps we should speak with someone who actually understands your system." That's when I stepped in. I apologized for the confusion, diagnosed their problem in real time, and walked them through a solution that not only fixed their immediate issue but improved their overall system performance. Within 30 minutes, what could have been a lost client became a satisfied customer ready to expand their contract. After the call ended, Trevor stormed out of the conference room. 20 minutes later, Harrison burst through my office door, his face purple with rage. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Harrison shouted, not caring that half the office could hear through my open door. "Trevor is the director of that account, not you. You completely undermined his authority and made him look incompetent." I stood up slowly, keeping my voice calm and professional. "Harrison, that client was about to cancel a $2 million contract because they weren't getting answers. I saved the deal. You embarrassed my nephew." His voice was getting louder, attracting more stares from the cubicles outside. "Your job is to support Trevor, not show off." "My job is to serve our clients and protect this company's interests," I replied evenly. "If you have a problem with that, maybe we need to discuss what my role really is here." That was the line I shouldn't have crossed. Harrison's eyes narrowed to slits, and his voice dropped to a menacing whisper. "Your role is whatever I say it is. You're an employee, Alex. Nothing more. And employees who can't follow simple instructions don't stay employed very long." The threat was clear, but I wasn't backing down. 5 years of watching him take credit for my work, 5 years of enduring his nephew's incompetence, 5 years of swallowing my pride. It all came bubbling to the surface. "Is that a threat?" I asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. "It's not a threat," Harrison replied, his voice carrying across the entire office floor. "It's a promise. You're done here, Alex." Security. The entire office fell silent. 2 security guards appeared within seconds, they'd clearly been waiting outside. Harrison's face was flushed with triumph as he pointed at me like I was some kind of criminal. "Escort Mr. Thompson out of the building immediately," he commanded. "He's been terminated for insubordination and is no longer authorized to be on company property." As the security guards flanked me, I felt something I hadn't expected: relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. For 5 years, I'd been building toward this moment without even realizing it. Every patent filed, every relationship built, every backup plan carefully crafted had led to this exact scenario. I stood up calmly, gathered my personal items from my desk, and walked toward the exit with my head held high. The entire office watched in stunned silence. Some looked shocked, others angry, but I caught a few supportive nods from colleagues who understood what had really happened. As we reached the elevator, I turned back to face Harrison one last time. He stood there in his expensive suit, arms crossed, wearing the smug expression of a man who thought he'd just eliminated his biggest threat. That's when I smiled and said those 2 words that would haunt him forever: "Thank you." The elevator doors closed, but I wasn't thinking about being escorted out or losing my job. I was thinking about the phone call I'd made 3 days earlier to Victoria Blackwood, one of the most successful venture capitalists in the city. Victoria and I had met at a tech conference 6 months ago, and she'd been very interested in the patent portfolio I'd been quietly building. "Alex," she'd said during our coffee meeting, "what you've created isn't just software, it's the foundation of the entire industry's future. If you ever decide to break away from tech flow, I have investors who would be very interested in backing you." I'd smiled and told her I'd keep that in mind. But 3 days ago, after Trevor's latest disaster and Harrison's increasingly hostile behavior, I'd called her back. "Victoria, hypothetically speaking, what would it take to acquire a company like TechFlow Solutions?" Her laugh was sharp and knowing. "Hypothetically? About $12 million, based on their current market valuation. But Alex, with your patents, you wouldn't need to acquire them, you could destroy them. Why buy the company when you own the technology that makes it valuable?" That conversation had planted a seed. But Harrison's public humiliation had just watered it. As security walked me to my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed Victoria's number. "Victoria, it's Alex Thompson. Are you free for lunch today? I think it's time we stopped speaking hypothetically." She was quiet for a moment, then I heard the sound of papers shuffling. My calendar just cleared. "Where do you want to meet?" 2 hours later, I sat across from Victoria and her business partner, James Hyland, at an upscale restaurant downtown. Between us lay a folder containing every patent I'd filed over the past 18 months, along with TechFlow's financial statements that I'd memorized during my years there. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," James said, reviewing the documents. "You own the intellectual property rights to every piece of technology that makes TechFlow Solutions profitable?" "That's correct," I replied. "Without these patents, their software platform is just basic database management. Anyone could build it in 6 months." Victoria leaned forward, her eyes sharp with interest. "And you're proposing what exactly?" I took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. "I'm proposing we buy TechFlow Solutions. Today. This afternoon. Before Harrison even realizes what's happening." The silence that followed was deafening. Then James started laughing, not mockery, but genuine admiration. "You magnificent bastard," he said. "You've been planning this for months, haven't you? I've been sharing this story because I know some of you have dealt with terrible bosses who take credit for your work. Have you ever fantasized about getting the ultimate revenge? Drop a comment below and let me know about your worst boss experience. I read every single one. And if you're enjoying this wild ride, smash that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable stories of workplace justice." "Not months," I admitted. "Years. I never planned to use it, but I wanted insurance." Harrison just forced my hand. Victoria's fingers drummed on the table as she calculated possibilities. $12 million for the company, but with your patents, we could justify a premium purchase. Say we offer $15 million, cash, immediate closure, no due diligence period." "They'd never refuse that kind of money," James added. "Especially if we present it as a merger opportunity rather than a buyout." I pulled out my laptop and showed them TechFlow's client list, revenue projections, and growth metrics. "This company is sitting on a goldmine, but Harrison doesn't understand the technology well enough to maximize its potential. With proper leadership and the patent protections, we could triple their revenue within 2 years." Victoria and James exchanged a look that told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't just revenge anymore, it was a legitimate business opportunity. "We'll need legal representation," Victoria said, already reaching for her phone. "I know a firm that specializes in rapid acquisitions." If we move fast enough, we could have papers drawn up and signed before close of business today. There's one condition, I said, stopping her mid-dial. I want to be the one to deliver the news to Harrison personally. James grinned. Oh, this is going to be beautiful. Within 3 hours, everything was in motion. Victoria's legal team worked with supernatural speed, drafting acquisition documents while her financial advisors arranged the funding. The beauty of working with experienced venture capitalists was their ability to move mountains when they smelled profit. I sat in the law firm's conference room, watching lawyers and accountants scurry around with documents and laptops. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Harrison was probably celebrating my termination with an expensive lunch, I was literally buying his company out from under him. My phone buzzed with a text from my former colleague Jake Wilson. Dude, what happened this morning? Harrison is telling everyone you had a mental breakdown. The whole office is talking about it. I smiled and typed back, tell everyone to stay tuned. The story isn't over yet. At 3:47 p.m., Victoria's assistant handed me a tablet with the final documents loaded. All it needed was my electronic signature to trigger a $15 million acquisition of TechFlow Solutions. My finger hovered over the screen for just a moment as I considered the magnitude of what I was about to do. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about justice. This was about ensuring that companies like TechFlow were run by people who understood and respected the technology that made them successful. I signed my name with a flourish. The money transferred instantly. $15 million moved from Victoria's investment fund to TechFlow's corporate accounts in less time than it takes to order coffee. Within minutes, I received legal confirmation that I was now the majority owner of TechFlow Solutions. But ownership paperwork is just the beginning. The real moment of truth would come when I walked back through those doors that security had escorted me out of just 6 hours earlier. Victoria insisted on accompanying me, along with James and their legal counsel. This is the kind of moment that makes our entire industry worthwhile, she said as we pulled up to TechFlow's office building. The security guard in the lobby recognized me immediately. His confusion was palpable. His sentence with a smile. Yes, I did. But I'm here on business now. Could you please call upstairs and tell Harrison Ford that the new owners of TechFlow Solutions would like to meet with him in the main conference room? The security guard's eyes went wide. He picked up his phone with trembling hands and made the call. I could hear Harrison's confused voice through the receiver, but couldn't make out the words. He'll be right down, the guard said, hanging up. We rode the elevator in comfortable silence. I felt strangely calm, like a chess player who'd been planning this move for years and was finally ready to say checkmate. The elevator doors opened to reveal chaos. Word had spread through the office that I was back, and employees were gathered in clusters, whispering and staring. Harrison stood near the reception desk, his face cycling through confusion, anger, and something that might have been fear. What the hell is this, Alex? He demanded as we approached. I had you escorted out of here this morning. You're trespassing. Victoria stepped forward, extending her hand with professional grace. Mr. Ford, I'm Victoria Blackwood from Highland Ventures. These gentlemen are James Highland and our legal counsel, Arthur Crane. We're here to discuss the acquisition of TechFlow Solutions. Harrison's expression shifted from anger to bewilderment. Acquisition? What are you talking about? This company isn't for sale. Arthur Crane opened his briefcase and withdrew a thick folder of documents. Actually, Mr. Ford, as of 1 hour ago, TechFlow Solutions was purchased by Highland Ventures for $15 million. All paperwork has been filed with the state, and the transaction is complete. The color drained from Harrison's face. He grabbed the documents with shaking hands, his eyes scanning the legal text frantically. This is impossible. You can't just buy a company without board approval, without due diligence, without your permission. I asked, stepping into his line of sight. Actually, you can. Your board approved the sale unanimously when they saw the offer price. Harrison's face went from pale to bright red in seconds. This is fraud. This is corporate theft. You can't just waltz in here with some investors and steal my company. His voice was getting louder, attracting more attention from the employees who were pretending to work while obviously listening to every word. I could see Trevor hovering near the coffee machine, his face a mask of confusion and growing panic. Harrison, I said calmly, there's no theft here. Highland Ventures made a legitimate offer to purchase TechFlow Solutions. Your board of directors accepted that offer. Everything was done through proper legal channels. But you orchestrated this, he shouted, pointing an accusatory finger at me. This is revenge because I fired you. Victoria's voice cut through his rant like a knife. Mr. Ford, I'm going to need you to lower your voice and conduct yourself professionally. You're creating a scene in front of your employees. My employees? Harrison laughed bitterly. Apparently they're not my employees anymore, are they? That's when I delivered the line I'd been waiting all day to say, actually, Harrison, they're my employees now. Because Highland Ventures has appointed me as the new CEO of TechFlow Solutions. The silence that followed was so complete you could have heard a pin drop. Every conversation stopped. Every keyboard went quiet. Even the air conditioning seemed to pause. Harrison's mouth opened and closed several times before any sound came out. You. Harrison's voice cracked on the single word. You think you can just take over my company? It's not your company anymore, I replied evenly. And it never really was it? You inherited it from your uncle, ran it into dysfunction, and lost it because you couldn't recognize the value of what you had. That's when Harrison made his fatal mistake. Instead of accepting defeat gracefully, he decided to fight dirty. Over the next hour, as Victoria and James met with the department heads to announce the transition, Harrison retreated to his office and began frantically deleting files. But I'd anticipated this possibility. 5 years of working with Harrison had taught me exactly how he'd react when cornered. While he was busy trying to erase evidence of his mismanagement, I was logging into the server systems I'd designed and built. Every file he deleted, I recovered. Every document he tried to destroy, I restored from backups he didn't even know existed. Every desperate attempt to sabotage the company's data was futile because the system itself was loyal to its creator, me. The best part was that Harrison's frantic deletion attempts were all being logged and recorded. Not only was he failing to damage the company, he was creating evidence of deliberate sabotage that would ensure his termination was both swift and permanent. By 6 p.m., Harrison Ford's reign of terror at TechFlow Solutions was officially over. The next morning brought revelations I hadn't expected. As I settled into the CEO office, the same office Harrison had used to humiliate me just 24 hours earlier, employees began approaching me with information that painted an even darker picture of Harrison's leadership. Susan Parker from accounting knocked on my door first. Alex, I know you're probably busy with the transition, but there are some financial irregularities I think you should know about. What she showed me made my blood run cold. Harrison hadn't just been incompetent, he'd been actively stealing from the company. Inflated expense reports, mysterious consulting fees paid to shell companies, and equipment purchases that never actually arrived. Then Jake Wilson from IT came forward with evidence of Harrison's attempts to sell company data to competitors. He approached me 6 months ago, Jake explained. Wanted me to copy our client database and development roadmaps to an external drive. When I refused, he threatened to fire me. More employees came forward throughout the morning. Stories of harassment, threats, financial manipulation, and systematic abuse of power. Harrison hadn't just been a bad boss, he'd been running a criminal enterprise disguised as a software company. I called Victoria immediately. "We need forensic accountants and a legal team here today. This goes way beyond corporate mismanagement." By afternoon, TechFlow Solutions was swarming with investigators, and Harrison Ford was looking at potential criminal charges. The story broke in the local business journal the next morning. Fired employee buys company, exposes massive fraud. Within hours, it had gone viral across social media and tech industry websites. #TechFlow Takeover was trending on Twitter, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing with interview requests. But the media attention created a new problem. Some of our largest clients were panicking, worried about the stability of their contracts and the security of their data. Our biggest client, Global Tech Industries, scheduled an emergency video call for that afternoon. Mr. Thompson, their CEO said, his face stern on the conference room screen, "We need assurance that this dramatic change in leadership won't affect our service agreements. We have millions of dollars worth of projects dependent on your platform." This was the moment that would determine whether my revenge would destroy TechFlow Solutions or save it. I took a deep breath and launched into the presentation I'd been preparing my entire career for. "I understand your concerns," I began, "and I want to address them directly. First, I'm the original architect of every system you're currently using. Second, I hold the patents on the core technologies that power your applications. And third, under new management, TechFlow is positioned to offer you capabilities that simply weren't possible under the previous administration." I spent the next hour demonstrating features Harrison had never even known existed, showing them roadmaps for improvements I'd been planning for years, and proving that TechFlow was more stable and secure than it had ever been. The Global Tech meeting was a complete success. Not only did they confirm their existing contracts, they signed an additional $2 million in new business on the spot. Word spread quickly through the industry that TechFlow Solutions wasn't just surviving the transition, it was thriving. But Harrison wasn't going quietly. That evening, I received a call from our legal team. "Alex, we need to meet immediately. Harrison is claiming the patents you hold were developed using company resources during company time. He's filing an injunction to prevent you from using them." This was the challenge I'd been preparing for since I filed the first patent application. I met with our lawyers that night and laid out the evidence I'd been collecting for over 2 years. Time-stamped personal files showing development on my home computer. Receipts for hardware I'd purchased with my own money. Even photographs of late-night coding sessions in my apartment. Every major breakthrough was developed on my own time, using my own equipment, solving problems that Harrison couldn't even understand, I explained. I have documentation proving that the core innovations happened outside of work hours and off company property. Our lead attorney smiled as she reviewed the evidence. "Alex, this is bulletproof. Not only will Harrison's injunction fail, but his false claims could result in additional legal penalties for frivolous litigation." The hearing was scheduled for the following Friday. Harrison would get his day in court, but he was about to learn that preparation beats desperation every single time. The courtroom was packed with industry observers, journalists, and TechFlow employees who had taken the morning off to witness the final confrontation. Harrison sat at the plaintiff's table with his expensive legal team, while I sat calmly with Victoria and our attorneys. Harrison's lawyer painted a picture of corporate betrayal, claiming I had stolen proprietary technology and orchestrated a hostile takeover. "Your Honor, Mr. Thompson systematically stole intellectual property belonging to TechFlow Solutions and used it to destroy the company from within. But when our turn came, we methodically destroyed every aspect of their argument. We presented timeline evidence showing when each innovation was developed. We produced documentation proving my ownership of the equipment used. We even had testimony from my apartment building's security system showing me entering and leaving at all hours, working on projects that Harrison's company benefited from but never owned. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. The evidence clearly shows that Mr. Thompson developed these innovations independently and legally filed patents in his own name. The plaintiff's claims are not only without merit, they appear to be retaliatory and frivolous. Harrison's face crumpled as the judge continued. Furthermore, this court finds that the plaintiff's attempt to claim ownership of clearly independent work represents a troubling pattern of behavior that warrants further investigation. It was over. Harrison had lost everything. His company, his reputation, and potentially his freedom, as federal investigators were already building a fraud case against him. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of positive changes. With Harrison gone and the legal challenges resolved, TechFlow Solutions flourished like never before. Employee morale skyrocketed as people were finally free to innovate without fear of retaliation or having their ideas stolen. Trevor, Harrison's incompetent nephew, had resigned immediately after the takeover. We replaced him with Amanda Foster, a brilliant engineer who actually understood the technology she was managing. The difference was like night and day. Our client base expanded rapidly as word spread about the improved leadership and enhanced capabilities. Companies that had been considering our competitors were now eager to work with the new TechFlow Solutions. Revenue projections for the first year under new management were triple what Harrison had achieved. But the most satisfying moment came when I received a handwritten letter from William Hayes, the company's original founder and Harrison's uncle. "Alex," it read, "I heard about recent events and wanted you to know that this is exactly what I hoped would happen when I first hired you." Harrison never understood that technology companies are built by brilliant people, not inherited by entitled ones. TechFlow Solutions is in the right hands now. The validation from the man who had given me my start was worth more than all the money in the world. The federal investigation into Harrison's activities concluded 6 months later. The fraud charges were extensive: embezzlement, theft of corporate assets, attempted bribery, and conspiracy to commit corporate espionage. Harrison Ford was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison and ordered to pay back over $2 million in stolen funds. The day of his sentencing, I sat in the courthouse gallery as the judge read the verdict. Harrison looked nothing like the confident, arrogant CEO who had fired me that morning almost a year ago. He appeared broken, defeated, and completely alone. Even Trevor had distanced himself once the criminal charges were filed. As they led Harrison away in handcuffs, he caught my eye for just a moment. I saw recognition there, and something else, the understanding that his own arrogance and cruelty had led directly to this moment. He had created his own worst enemy through years of abuse and humiliation. I felt no joy watching him being taken away. Justice had been served, but it was the kind of justice that leaves everyone wishing things could have been different from the beginning. If I had learned anything from this experience, it was that revenge might be satisfying, but building something better than what you're replacing is the real victory. Today, 3 years after that fateful firing, TechFlow Solutions is a completely different company. We've grown from 50 employees to over 200. Our revenue has increased by 400%, and we're considered one of the most innovative software companies in the region. But the real change isn't in the numbers, it's in the culture. Employees feel valued, ideas are heard regardless of hierarchy, and innovation comes from passion rather than fear. We've created an environment where the next Alex Thompson won't need to file secret patents because they'll know their contributions will be recognized and rewarded. Sometimes former colleagues ask me if I ever regret the way things happened. They wonder if I could have handled the situation differently, maybe found a way to work with Harrison or simply moved to another company. The truth is, I don't regret a single moment. Harrison's decision to fire me for insubordination was the best thing that ever happened to both of us. He learned that actions have consequences, and I learned that sometimes the universe has a perfect sense of timing. As I sit in the CEO office, looking out at a team of dedicated professionals building the future of technology, I remember that morning when security escorted me out of this very building. I remember Harrison's smug expression and my simple response, "Thank you." That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment justice began. And honestly, I'd do it all over again. What an incredible journey this has been. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who appreciates a good comeback story. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever been in a situation where someone underestimated you completely? Drop your story in the comments below, give this video a like if you enjoyed the ride, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing tales of workplace justice and sweet, sweet revenge.